Welcome to the Reviews Without Remorse podcast with Joe and Dave. Be warned, the discussions in this podcast will contain detailed spoilers. For spoiler-free reviews of newly released films, please check out our channel Reviews Without Remorse on YouTube and VidMe. Enter at your own risk and enjoy the show. And welcome back to another episode of Reviews Without Remorse. I am the Italian Stallion, Joseph Darlington, along with my crazy brother-in-law, Davey. What's going on, partner?
Why am I frickin' Paulie? Jesus! Yeah, I mean, dude, at least make me Mickey. I would have accepted Mickey. Listen, Rock, you're a bum.
You're a bum. On today's episode, we lost a legend, Tobe Hooper. Dave will comment. Batman. Is Batman part of the DCEU? We will discuss it. The Joker movie, produced by Martin Scorsese. Okay, we'll talk about it. Dave has seen Wind River. We will discuss it. I will be a big boy and not talk about James Cameron's comments about Wonder Woman, even though I'm kind of frothing at the bit to do so.
Don't.
Not even going to touch it.
All right? Seriously.
We don't do gossip.
Yeah, exactly.
Let it go. And then I will try to regain some of the credibility that I lost last week, gushing over Rocky IV, as we move on to Rocky V.
I think we're going to probably be in more tune with this one.
Probably. Yeah.
And we also, we weren't completely out of tune with last week. You know, I even said that the movie was enjoyable just as a Rocky movie. I had to ding it.
I think we were both probably very much in sync, but you're right. I think if you had to sum it up, you basically said, look, I am going to tackle this as part of the Rocky franchise, whereas I try to tackle it as more of an individual film. But neither of us are right or wrong in that respect. It is both part of the franchise, and it is both something as a unique specimen. So yeah, I don't think either of us were wrong in that respect. I think in fact, I think we both did a good yin and yang on that sucker.
I agree. I think it worked very well. Hopefully the audience felt the same.
What happened was true. The most bizarre and brutal series of crimes in America.
This is tragic to me, okay? Born January 25th in Austin, Texas, 1943. This man's first foray into film was a tiny little independent movie called The Texas Chainsaw Massacre, okay, which was one of my first horror movies that I ever saw. Beautiful, brilliant, scary as hell. The first time Leatherface comes out, grabs that girl, pulls her into the back room, and slams that door shut, that is so ingrained in my mind, like you wouldn't believe. But the guy didn't rest on his laurels. Oh, no. He didn't rest on his laurels. Not only did he horrify me with that, the second time that the man scared the ever-living pants off of me was in a little TV movie called Salem's Lot. Where
right.
The boy's sleeping, and that music comes up, and there's a fog at the giant window, and the little vampire boy comes floating towards the window really slowly and just starts scratching at it. Open the window, Mark. Shh. Open the window. Freaked me the hell out.
Yeah, I remember that one too.
Okay, what else? Jesus, I mean, we've got The Funhouse, Poltergeist, Life Force, which, some can take or leave, but let's face it, the woman in that movie was frickin' beautiful and naked throughout the entire movie. He'll always get credit for me for that. He did one sequel to the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, which was a brilliant little satire on the current state of horror movie. It's something I suggest people give another look at. And he kept busy with a lot of horror movie stuff right up to the end. But he was a legend. I mean, he invented the killer family genre, if you could say that, and did one of the best translations of a Stephen King book at that time. Salem's Lot was the first one that was really, really close, really, really good. He died on August 26th of this year, 74, but he was working right up to the end. His last movie was in 2013, a movie called The Djinn, which was about a vindictive genie, of all things. So
it's a great Scary concept. I did hear you say Poltergeist, did I not?
Yes, he was the director of Poltergeist.
They're here.
Did he really? I didn't realize that. Okay.
There's two genres right there that he turned on its head. Poltergeist is a huge influence on ghost stories to this day. So,
Agreed.
you were an amazing man, Mr. Hooper. You were one of the first people to ever scare the living heck out of me growing up. And to this day, I can't watch Salem's Lot without either that scene or the scene where the guy goes to see his old teacher to try to hypnotize him. And he's like, "Look at me, teacher. Look at..." God, creepy stuff. Beautiful. Brilliant stuff. Rest in peace, my man.
Some days you just can't get rid of a bomb.
So it is official. The DCEU has thrown in the towel. They have waved the white flag and basically just said, you know what? Cinematic universes, who needs them anyway? Cinematic universes are for poopy heads. The heck with it. We just don't feel like they've officially surrendered and given up and just thrown in the towel.
Wait, what? You might be mistaken on this, sir. Are you talking about that article that came out where Matt Reeves supposedly said that the new Batman movie would not be part of the DC universe?
That's exactly what I'm talking about. Now, tell me if I'm wrong. If it's not part of the DCEU, so basically now, as far as I'm concerned, that says to me, Affleck just wants the hell out of this thing, and he's basically quit.
Okay.
And they've just sort of said, oh, that's it. This is not the part of the DCEU, so that later, when Affleck drops out, they could say it doesn't matter anyway.
Dude.
Go ahead.
Dude. He corrected it. He just meant that there weren't going to be any characters from the DCEU in it. It's part of it, just that nobody else is going to be in it except Batman and his villains.
Oh, okay. All right, you're going to have to explain this to me then, because again, first he said it's not part of the DCEU, which I do not understand. Okay, if it is part of the DCEU, yet we're still going to get a Joker movie that is going to be produced by Martin Scorsese, which I frankly can't believe. There's something about that doesn't sit right with me, and I say to myself, there's got to be more to the story than this, or we just heard it wrong, or something or other. But whatever. So, am I safe to say that the Joker is that going to be a standalone film, and that one not in the DCEU?
All right, look, I can completely understand your confusion. To be perfectly honest with you, I'm confused. I don't understand the only thing I can think of is like Martin Scorsese's producing a Joker movie. It's like, is Martin Scorsese that hard up for easy cash? Is that what this is? Is this a cash grab?
Look, one of two things is going on. Either I don't see why at this stage in his career Martin Scorsese would have to do anything resembling a cash grab. Mm-hmm. Maybe he thinks that he can do something that I'm baffled. I am absolutely baffled. I mean, Scorsese he could do crazy movies about crazy people. I mean, the man has done Taxi Driver.
That is very true.
Maybe he's watching everyone fumble around with these comic book characters, and he's saying, look, maybe he just felt like throwing his hand in and saying, you know what, guys, give me that guy. Here's how you do it. And maybe he's going to show us how it's done. Maybe. I don't know, but I still can't imagine why in a million years he would even be remotely... Again, this is Martin Scorsese. The guy has never dabbled in what I would call mainstream movie making. He does Scorsese movies. He does masterpieces. Things that he's done that I would consider even a little off the beaten track for him. I still can't see him dipping his feet in to do a superhero movie. So why he would want to do this, I'm just perplexed. I'm absolutely perplexed. And I feel like the other shoe is going to drop, and when that happens, then we can talk about it. Until then, I don't know.
It's really hard to say right now because, one of the things that I thought was is like, we're going to do a Joker movie. It's like, oh, that's interesting. They said nothing about, and Leto is going to be back. They said nothing about that. So I don't know. Maybe this is just him saying, you know what? It's a genre I want to see if I can work in. He likes to go through different genres. So it's not outside the realm of him deciding he wants to try something different. Even Tarantino. If you notice, Tarantino's stuff goes through many different genres. He's not just a one genre type of guy. I mean, yeah, it's got a certain key tone to it, but I mean, Scorsese is mostly known for his crimes and gangs and things like that. And like Hugo, for example, was like his first kids movie that he really ever did. So maybe he's just looking to, I don't know, try something different. I don't know. As a producer, I mean, the guy has produced many, many things that he's not personally been involved in, but they've all been still in his wheelhouse. Vinyl, Boardwalk Empire. There's a movie called The Snowman coming out, which I saw a trailer for this weekend. It looks like the typical serial killer thing. Again, these are all things in his wheelhouse. Maybe he just wants something a little bit different.
Yeah.
I'm just looking at his IMDb, and it's just like, okay. My point, I guess, being that it's so early. It feels almost premature to announce it this early, because all they have is names. It's like, this person's involved, this person's involved, this person's involved. So obviously they don't even have a script. Hell, they haven't even finished the Batman script yet. So as far as I'm concerned, there's nothing set in stone with anything like this. But it is kind of telling how there's a disarray in the background of all this stuff. You've got Zack Snyder.
Right, there you go.
You got Zack Snyder pulling out for legitimate reasons, and now. Sure. And now Whedon is in, and they were saying, it's just a couple of reshoots, and now it's a couple of months of reshoots, and, they're basically just finishing the reshoots in like a week or two. Just now. The movie's supposed to come out in November.
Yeah, well, and you're right. That is a big part of it, is the whole disarray in the background. I mean, we're coming up on a year from Batman v... Actually, Batman v Superman is how long ago now? We're coming up on 2 years, actually.
2 years, yeah, 2 years.
2 years, right. This was early in 2016, so we're at least a year and a half, almost 2 years, and Batman doesn't even have a script yet. I mean, and they announced that how long ago?
Just about the same time that Batman v Superman came out.
Right, they were going to do a Batman standalone. Affleck was going to star and write and direct.
Right,
and little by little that went away, and now we're almost a year and a half later, and we don't even have a script that we're happy with yet. That's kind of telling. And now again with it may or may not be part of the DCEU. I guess it is, but don't expect it to be involved with the rest of the storyline. So again, they're not going that Marvel route where everything is kind of connected in some way, shape, or form. They're pretty much saying, look, we're not going to connect it. We're just going to do our own thing over here, I guess. And now with this standalone Joker, I'm saying, so there's going to be 2 Jokers at the same time. It was kind of a big deal to get just one superhero flick done. Now they're going to have multiple universes side by side. I don't know. And by the way, I meant to say in the intro that I'm going back on my word and talking about the Batman again, because I said a few podcasts ago, I said it is just so damn confusing that there's no point in even talking about it until we get some hard news or whatever. Mm-hmm. But this has come out and it's news. I mean, they said it. They said it and reset it and clarified. So I guess we're talking about it, but damn it, I'm still feeling like I did weeks ago. Like, why am I talking about it? Because nothing makes sense.
I think we should make a new rule. I think the rule should be, until they start filming a movie, we shouldn't talk about it.
Well, I mean...
I know, and that sounds dumb, because... But think about it for a second, okay? Of the DC movies so far, they've got Aquaman, which is finished filming, and they've got Justice League. There's nothing else going on right now. There is nothing else going on. There's a lot of talk of scripts and this and that and so on and so forth. And this person's here and that person's there. But there's nothing definitive. Dwayne Johnson, The Rock, got announced as Black Adam for a Shazam movie like 4 years ago. 4 years ago, it feels like.
Yeah, right.
In the meantime, Ant-Man and the Wasp is filming right now. They just released a picture today of Evangeline Lilly in her Wasp costume. Some of it.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yep.
All right, that's filming right now. Black Panther is coming out in February. We've got Thor coming out in 2 months in November. And starting in January, they start filming the next Avengers movie.
I'm starting to picture like the DC wing of Warner Brothers as like this kind of Delta frat house where they're all just sitting around smoking pot all day.
It's something,
like Marvel. Like, these are the kids that they get up every morning, and when they say we're gonna make this movie, they get up and they do it and they bang it out. Before you know it, you're watching it. I feel like DC it's like, hey, dude, let's do like Shazam, yeah, let's get The Rock, yeah. Like 4 years later, like, whatever happened with that Shazam? Oh yeah, that, yeah, I guess we should do that or whatever. Like, I don't know.
Too busy having toga parties and smashing guitars in hallways.
Sheriff's office. I need emergency assistance. The Wind River Indian Reservation.
Okay, Wind River. What'd you think? I've been hearing good things about this, and I am very curious to check it out. So, what'd you think?
I'm gonna try my best not to spoil it at all because it's first of all, it's a very well done movie. It's a very well written movie. It's written and directed by the gentleman who wrote a movie called Hell or High Water, which if you haven't seen, you got to check out. Really,
Excellent
really good flick. And he also wrote Sicario, another excellent movie if you haven't seen it. This was written and directed by him. It stars Jeremy Renner, Elizabeth Olsen. I'm unfortunately the Native American actor from Dances with Wolves. I feel terrible not knowing his name.
Is that Graham Greene? He was in Die Hard 3.
Yes, him.
That's
Graham
his
Greene.
name, Graham Greene. Yeah.
Thank you so much. I only feel like half an ass now. God, I really, really don't want to give anything away. Just know that it's currently my favorite movie this year. I'll just leave it at that. It was really, really well done, extremely well acted, amazing directing and cinematography, beautiful, beautiful looking movie, but a hard movie. It's not an easy movie to watch. I don't know. I guess I would put this in Schindler's List territory. Schindler's List territory in the respect not as in, oh my God, this is a movie for the ages, but more along the lines of once you see it, it's like, I've seen it. There's no reason to go back to it because that's how hard it is. I may go back. I'm probably going to see it at least one more time just to see if I can catch a couple of things that I think I might have missed. But after that, it's good, but it's hard. It really, really is. It's now my favorite movie out this year so far.
Wow.
So I highly, 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 highly recommend that you get your butt to the theater and you see this.
Now, the glory.
Because of the continuous violent blows to the head, the effects are irreversible.
The crowds.
My husband is retired. He has nothing more to prove.
And the money are gone.
You lost millions.
Look, I still got my place in the old neighborhood.
All right, my friend. I guess that means we have to get into Rocky V.
Rocky V, reluctantly retired from boxing and back from riches to rags. Rocky takes on a new protege who betrays him, as the champ's son must adjust to his family's new life after bankruptcy.
All righty, that is the story of Rocky V.
That's pretty much it.
Yeah, and like last week, I feel like this is going to be an interesting one to talk about because it's a hard one. It's not a hard one. I have a feeling we're both going to be. I mean, like Rocky IV. Like I said, it is odd because there are parts that are great and there are aspects that are terrible. Whereas Rocky V, I feel like the best parts of Rocky V are still mediocre. So I don't think we're not exactly going to be battling over this film.
It's funny. I feel like this movie lost out on an ambitious idea. Right? Let's break the idea down for a second. The idea is that after the fight with Drago, he's basically got brain damage. All right. Which seems like a logical conclusion for a guy who's taken as much beating as he has over the past couple of years to finally have happened to him. That seems like a nice, logical next step. The losing the money, okay? This is also not unheard of. It's not the first time in the world where a sports, personality had a bad accountant and, lost money. So the idea behind it, in order to get him back into a more, homey type of existence, there's some logic to that. I appreciate that logic. The idea that his son would have a hard time adjusting that because he was basically brought up into riches and now has gone to rags. Again, these are all logical story beats that should have worked, but didn't. It didn't work. And I'm stymied. I was watching it and I kept saying to myself, this should work. But for whatever reason, it's just not. And I couldn't pin it down where it went wrong.
I agree in spirit. I feel like the notion of trying to bring Rocky back down to its roots that it had gotten so far away from on paper is a good idea. Yeah, but is this the right story to tell? I mean, the bottom line is, I guess Stallone says, look, I'd like to bring the franchise back down to its roots. And that's fine. That's fine in theory. But how do you do that? And what story do you use as a vehicle to not only, I mean, again, it's almost like there are two missions here. I want to bring Rocky back down, get him back down to the streets that we knew originally. Okay, that's A. B is, once we do that, what is the story? What is the story we're going to tell? What is the obstacle that Rocky overcomes? And I kind of feel like, at the end of the day, this was the wrong story to tell. It doesn't work, and I kind of feel like it's more of like an amalgam of different possibilities that sort of get morphed together into a vehicle to try to accomplish all of these things, and at the end of the day, it doesn't work.
Yeah.
So starting at the beginning, Stallone says, how do we get back to the roots here? I kind of feel like that's the first problem. The first problem is in this film is that Stallone tries to get from the end of Rocky IV to the beginning of Rocky I in about 20 minutes. And that in itself is wrong. That in itself is, again, I like the idea of him losing money. Okay, now that's fair. In fact, I even think that if I had to take a guess, I think the inspiration for this was probably Billy Joel. Remember Billy Joel at one point?
Oh, yeah.
He had a crooked, like he had like an old brother-in-law that he used to do his books, and sure enough, that guy did some crooked things with his money, and he lost a bundle. I think that's probably the inspiration here, and I think that makes some sense. But again, it still required a lot of lapse in a lot of things that didn't make sense had to also happen for this to work. For example, there they are in the office with the accountant. Paulie says, "Why don't you just do a couple of commercials? You get it back in no time." And Rocky goes, "Paulie, I'm not a commercial kind of guy, all right?" As if we're supposed to remember Rocky 2 and forget everything in that opening of Rocky 3. You know what I mean? I'm not a commercial kind of guy. I mean, again, now Rocky is at the height of his popularity. He's even more popular now than he was at the beginning of Rocky 3. Like, now he's beaten Clubber Lang and he's beaten Ivan Drago in the most publicized, most televised, most watched event in boxing history, they said. So he should be at the height of his popularity. So why he can't do commercials to get some money back, why he can't do anything to get, and then that's the problem, is that they make the leap from the height, the top of his game, more wealth than most people would ever see in their lifetime, to right back down to the same house, the same street corners, the same everything from Rocky 1. I mean, like, this film is asking us not only to forget Rocky 4, forget Rocky 3, even forget Rocky 2, and just put us back at the beginning of Rocky 1. And that to me was wrong. Like, that probably should have been a little more of a progression. The idea that, like, 20 minutes into this film, Rocky goes, like, again, they're selling everything, they're losing everything. That you see the Maserati's getting towed out of the driveway.
Mm-hmm.
He goes to the attic. He puts on the old leather jacket and the old hat, you know, and he even puts the glasses on Adrian. It's almost like that scene is like, "Hey, audience, come on. What do you think? What do you think? We're going to go back to the first one. Are you game? You going to play along with this?" I mean, literally, like, he puts the coat and the hat on, he goes, "I'm going to go down to Andy's and get a beer." Then they cut to him walking out of that same bar from Rocky 1, lighting a cigarette. And I'm like, are you serious? Are you really serious? You're really going to try to... I mean, that is a shot from... I'm expecting Gazzo to walk up to him any second and be like, "Hey, you coming back to be a collector?" "Yeah, of course I am." I mean, it was like it was amazing. I was like, are you guys really trying this? So anyway, that to me is the first colossal misstep. Is like they really tried to jam that idea home just way too fast. It was like I said, bypassing every film since the first one just to get back to Rocky 1, that same corner, and now we can start our story. So that to me is the first problem.
Oh, that's actually, you know what? That's the biggest one of all.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's a colossal problem because, again, not only do they rush to get to this point, but they go as far as to putting Adrian back in the pet shop, for God's sakes. Mm-hmm. I mean, that to me was baffling. I mean, the one scene, you want to talk about just bad screenwriting? The part when Paulie and Rocky are walking home, right? They're walking home. They make it they just happen to make it to the front of the of Mick's old gym, right? He stops. Tommy Gunn shows up. Hey, can I talk to you for a minute? And then the limo pulls up. George Washington Duke gets out with the other guy. He starts yelling at him. All chaos is going on. Adrian shows up she comes out of the pet shop from across the street, comes running over. The whole cast of the movie's like staying on this one street corner yelling at each other. And I'm like this to me, I'm like saying to myself, this is like the worst written thing ever. You're talking about just coincidences. It's like Stallone is sitting there with his pen and paper, writing this stuff down. Oh, I got to do this. I got to do that. I got to do that. And just at once, it just vomits everything on one page. This has got to happen. That's got to happen. That's got to happen. That's got to happen. All in 30 seconds. So yeah, so not only, right, the fact that they jam him back into this old situation, bypassing every other logical thing that would happen first, to get Rocky back into the old house and the old gym and Adrian even back in the pet shop. Wow, that carries throughout the film. So now the rest of the film is going to suffer because of this.
It's a disappointing and depressing movie, actually, to watch. It really is. Because, I mean, here you have John G. Avildsen back, and you would think, okay, they're going to try to get him back to his roots, but it didn't feel like any of it was earned, like you just said. You're absolutely right. None of it was earned. The situation is absolutely, positively, 100% believable. But then it's like, it's not a gradual descent into old habits. It's like a switch got flipped, and there it is. And then
right.
And then it's like, well, we have to advance other parts. So let's have Tommy Gunn out here. Let's have George Washington, a Don King light out here.
Yeah, right.
She's going to be back at the pet store. Blah, 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 blah. And it's like, okay, fine. These are all logical, but it's like, it doesn't work. None of it worked. Okay, no. You had terrible casting in Tommy Morrison as Tommy Gunn. Okay, yes. All right, the guy's a boxer. I understand he's a boxer, but he was awful. That mullet, I wanted to shave that mullet every time it came on screen. Every time. But on the other hand, the guy who played George Washington, he was freaking awesome. I loved when he was on screen. He was like the redemption. He was the guy
who was sort of born to play that kind of a part. I'll give you that. Yeah.
Yeah, he was. I mean, for what he got and everything like that, he was great. He was like the perfect amount of sleaze. Richard Gant. His name is Richard Gant. Yeah. He was like my favorite part of the movie. Whenever he was on screen, I was like, giddy, only in America, touch me and I sue. It's like, come on. That is so ridiculous. But I allowed it. And then, okay, so Paulie is basically the cause of the downfall. And it's like, they don't even really blame Rocky. Because, Paulie can't give power of attorney. He just threw a paper under Rocky. Rocky didn't bother reading it, just signed it. So, how is it all Paulie's fault? Explain that one to me.
Yeah, it's funny. I found that to be confusing as well. Because, again, they say Paulie did something to give him power of attorney or had somebody... Yeah, you're right. I mean, it does... Paulie wouldn't have the power to do that in the first place, to hand it over to this other guy. Yeah, that was... Yeah, it's clunky. You're right. It is clunky. And again, they rush back into that so fast. I mean, they're barely... I think it's the night they got home. The night they get home from Russia, they put the kid to bed, and Rocky comes downstairs. The two of them are already yelling at each other that this happened. Well, how do you know it happened? You just walked in the door. So, yeah, incidentally, we're probably going to say the same thing. Go ahead.
By the way, boy, that kid has some Miracle Grow between movies.
There you go. Again, why they do that again here? Because, again, this one doesn't lend itself to that. Why would they pick this up the moment he gets off the plane from Russia? This movie was 5 years later. This was a long time later.
Oh, yeah.
This wasn't just like 2 or 3 years. Going from Rocky 1 to Rocky 2, that made a little more sense. And plus, there's a lot of implied time. There's implied time here and there. He proposes to Adrian, they get married. That takes a little time. The training takes time, whatever. But again, they went from Rocky 3 to Rocky 4 in one shot. So now, so the kid now has a spike in growth.
It's putting it mildly.
Right. And they did the same thing from 4 to 5, which is even weirder. Like, I don't quite understand why they did that. Because again, in fact, I was reading up and the kid who played Rocky Jr. in Rocky 4 apparently is the same exact age as the kid as Stage Stallone who plays Rocky Jr. in Rocky 5.
Yeah.
So you could have had the same kid again if you wanted to, but they said the age spike was so strange since he was like he just left this kid supposedly. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like he gets on the plane.
It's like he literally time traveled. Like the Rocky household went through normal years. And by the way, where was the robot? Why wasn't the robot at the auctions?
They should have. They should have had a scene where the robot's getting wheeled out the.
Goodbye, Paulie. Goodbye, Paulie.
Right.
You know, that would have actually made me sad. So the Rocky household, it traveled 5 years forward into the future, and they stayed in the same time frame.
Incidentally, too, you know, no one is a bigger Stallone fan than me. Okay, I'll just say that. I am a humongous fan of Stallone. I think he's a guy, again, started out with nothing, really kind of fought his way to be able to do what he did, and God bless him. But when he is promoting a movie, he is the worst bullshitter you have ever seen. Because I remember, first of all, he was on Oprah one time, right? I was watching this, again, like I would never watch Oprah, but Stallone was on promoting Rambo 3, and I was watching this. And at some point, somebody asked him, like, you know, do you think we'll ever see another Rocky film? And Stallone actually said with a straight face, he goes, well, the Rocky saga was originally conceived in 5 parts. And I went, bullshit.
Boo!
Yeah, I'm like, come on. Look, if you're going to make another one, but don't piss on my leg and tell me it's raining, okay? Just say, yeah, we're going to make another one. But the other thing he said, I remember watching interviews when he said that, again, now this is his son. He put his son in a film. Fair enough, you're allowed to do that. That's fine. But he's like, but the thing is, you know, he had to actually audition with like 1,000 other kids, and he was the one they picked. And I'm like, really? Well, what a coincidence. He just got picked out of 1,000 other kids, huh? Okay, well, the kid who's never had an acting job before, beat out like how many other kids to get this gig? Okay, fine. So anyway, Stallone puts his son in the film, and again, I don't have a problem with it, but the kid's a little annoying. But then again, you know, whatever.
No.
What?
A little annoying. I am not letting you get away with that. A little annoying.
Is he the Jake Lloyd of the Rocky series?
Here, let me put it to you this way. He is the Sofia Coppola of the Rocky series.
Wow. That's painful.
Okay? All right? Believe me, I even wrote notes about that. I said 1990 was a weird year in nepotism casting.
Very true. I didn't really, to be honest with you, I remember... Trying to remember when the first time I saw this, if I found him that annoying. I thought he was a little annoying, but not that much. I mean, put it this way: most movies with child actors, unless you've got a prodigy on your hands, they're probably going to be like annoying and saying dumb. I mean, even in Rocky 4, if a big giant man wanted to beat me up, I'd be real scared. Shut up, you stupid jerk. Like it's hard to really get like child actors to do very much. So I thought he was okay, but seriously, I mean, the lines that he's throwing out. I mean, again, now this is, by the way, part 2 of what's wrong with this film. I feel like the story that they tell is just not the right story. I like the idea that Rocky is, I mean, what they're trying to do is, like, he takes Tommy Gunn under his wing. So Rocky is, you know, kind of consumed with that. Not only as a trainer / manager, but I guess what they're trying to imply is that what Rocky is really doing is reliving his glory days through Tommy Gunn.
Right.
So he kind of loses track of his family in the process. And I guess that makes sense, even though his glory days was like last month. Supposedly. Again, like why, you know, again, something else that another problem caused by making this film, you know, segue right from the end of Rocky 4. But so he loses track of his son. I get that, but then again, when the kid starts getting like, now he's turning into a smart mouth, and now he's this is something that I think on paper works pretty well, but then when it actually happens, it sort of feels like, look, if Rocky is working and he's a trainer and he's got to work with this other guy. You know, that doesn't mean every time this kid wants to run. I kept feeling every inopportune moment this kid would like run in and like interrupt the conversation that Rocky's having, or interrupt his training session or whatever. Hey, Dad, guess what happened today? And he's like, oh, cool. Well, you know, we'll talk about it later, whatever. I thought that was kind of reasonable. I mean, kid, Dad's working. Go away. You know, like, I didn't find it to be unreasonable. And incidentally, towards the end, when now Rocky has the sort of breakthrough, and Adrian says, you know, your son is lost. He needs you. All Rocky does is go down to the street corner where he's hanging out and say, oh, you know, your dad kind of messed up a little bit. And the kid's like, oh, all right, cool. We're good now. And then it's over. Like, that's it. That is that whole story. That whole backstory of him and the son, you know, losing touch and then reconciling. That's it. And Rocky really does. There's nothing is said or done, you know, that's interesting at all. He just goes, hey kid, you know, I kind of messed up a little bit. You want to come home? He's like, all right. You know, and now they're all pals again.
It's full of stuff like that though. And,
yeah.
and I'm sorry. I think you're being too kind. I feel like, you know, while he wasn't like the worst thing on the planet, he wasn't Sofia Coppola bad, but he wasn't really strong for the part that they wanted him to play. All right.
No.
And the emotional things that they needed him to do. The big scene with him was when he fought the bully and then made a friend of the bully. That was like, I thought that was kind of neat. I thought that was kind of like, oh, okay. Talia Shire had said earlier in the movie she wanted him to work with his mind, not with his fists. And it's almost like a symbolic best of both worlds. You know, he took the bully down, so he worked with his fist, and then he worked with his mind, which is his mother's side of things, and made him into a friend. I thought that was a nice little thing, and it's probably the only credit I'm going to give this movie as a nice little thing. But the build up to that didn't work. His fight with him didn't work. His whole make peace angle with him, and the kid's like, you know, hey, you know, let's shake hands. It's like, yeah, okay, I'll tell you later. Goodbye. You know, it's like, that should have worked so much better. That could have worked so much better. The whole movie just feels like a large near miss. Like, the idea of this movie is better than the movie.
Yeah, 100%. And right, I agree with that. I kind of feel like you said, on paper, like, again, Stallone's going in front of the backers, and they're going to say, oh, look, on this one, we're going to go back to basics. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. I could see them saying, like, okay, that's good. Because, you know, again, I kind of felt like Stallone was kind of becoming sort of the punchline. Again, he's Rocky IV, he's Rambo, and he's kind of getting it like to where, you know, people are saying, like, you know, for a guy who, you know, did an Oscar-winning film to just go out as like an action hero for all these mindless, you know, shooting, yada yada yada, he probably said, okay, fine, okay, I'll go back and I'll do a drama. You know, I'll go back and do Rocky like he used to be. And I can see people saying, yeah, that's cool. But you're right. The end result seems like it almost ventures into parody, because it's a pale imitation. Not only is it a pale imitation of the first one, right? Like I said, they bypass everything to get back to square one. It's not good enough to go backtrack a little bit and tone it down and get a little back to basics. No, they have to just time travel back to 1977 and have Rocky standing there in the same jacket, same hat, lighting a cigarette like it's the first film.
His title is in the hands of a new champion.
He might win a few fights, but he's no Rocky Balboa.
Controlled by an unscrupulous promoter.
This is your medical report. It's not so good, but we can work around it.
But here's the problem, too. Not only is it a pale comparison to the first one, it also can't let go of certain tropes that it has come to rely on. Remember when I said, like in Rocky 3, I said Rocky 3, you had that good drama from the first two, but with just enough shot of adrenaline to really pump it up and take it to the next level. And Rocky 4, you know, that is just the adrenaline rush. That is just a full-blown overdose of adrenaline. The adrenaline in Rocky V feels more like methadone, where we can't quite let go of that adrenaline rush, and we just need a little bit to get me by. I need just a little bit. Like here's Stallone trying to write this script, right? He's trying to write the script, and he's trying to make it like about family and about this, but then this Tommy Gunn comes along, and they do these ridiculous fight scenes. They do the montages of Tommy Gunn having fights. And like he punches guys so where they're doing like backflips, like they're doing almost 180 degree backflips in midair. Like, I mean, it is that crazy. So like the idea that you're going back to do these old fashioned kind of fights is just so nuts. Like they can't do it. Even the first fight in the gym, like where he just wants his, okay, let's see what you got. And he just starts wailing on this guy. And of course the sound effects. I mean, the sound effects in the whole series kind of started to get like, each one got a little progressively worse. Where now it just sounds like you're taking a bat and you're taking a bat over like the side of a cow, you know? I mean, it's just ridiculous. But, so yeah, I mean, so now it's like they're trying to do this drama with this weird kind of like still actiony scenes that don't work and are out of place in this film. And even that really, really weird scene later, Rocky has already reconciled with his son, right? And I haven't even really talked about the whole Tommy Gunn story. But later on when he's reconciled with his son and he's watching Tommy Gunn's championship fight on TV, and they show Rocky punching the heavy bag, right? He's punching the heavy bag along with the fight. And it was so annoying. That whole scene was so irritating because it's like, you know, he's going crazy watching this fight and he starts punching the thing. Every time he hits the bag, somebody in the room, oh, shockingly, like looks like is startled when they hear the punch. It's like, really? like it was almost like Stallone said, like, Rocky can't be in a whole movie where Rocky doesn't throw a punch. So he sits there punching a heavy bag and everyone has to react. Like, Paulie almost like drops his beer. Like he's in such shock when it happens. It was like so corny and annoying. Like that was really irritating. And then after that fight, Rocky's, for some reason, he's so blown away by this that Adrian comes down and she's like, yeah, that was a great fight. Why don't you and Paulie go down and get a beer?
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, okay, fine. Yeah, me and Paulie, okay, we're going to go out. But it's like, as he's saying this to her, he's going, man, that fight, oh my God, that fight was so great. Like, oh man, like he's so, like, I'm like, why? What was the point of that? Why is he acting like this is like he's so, like Rocky Balboa, for God's sakes? You've never seen a fight before, an impressive fight? Like now he can't even speak. He's so stunned by this fight. I was like, I didn't get the point of that. That was so weird.
I kind of feel like you covered a lot there, so I'm just kind of like flabbergasted because you're right. That whole thing we kind of understood that this was Rocky vicariously working through Tommy for the fighting that he lost because of the brain damage. I understood that. It didn't need to be visceral. He could have just stood. He could have just stood there and just kind of moved his arms as he was talking. And it's like, that's all you need. You don't need to be that overly dramatic. Why? What's with the extra drama? Why, it's not necessary. Whatever happened to? They wanted to go back to it. You were saying how this felt like they were trying to go back, and yeah, agreed with you that they were. So what happened to the subtlety? What happened to the things that didn't need to be said? You know, what happened to that wonderful scene that we talked about, that we gushed about when we first reviewed the first Rocky, where after he had the big fight with Mick about, you know, what about my shot and everything like that, and all he does is run down the street, stops Mick as he's walking, nothing is said, and they just shake hands. What happened to that?
This is Sylvester Stallone at his lowest point, as far as I'm concerned. Honest to God, there is no subtlety anymore. There is no subtlety. Everything has to be spelled out. I mean, this is George Lucas level writing, like the George Lucas who can't actually just give you anything visually. He writes things like "I hate you" and "I love you" and I like just every mistake you can make in writing happens in Rocky V. I mean, think about it. There are no real arcs for anyone. I mean, we're so past the idea of Adrian getting an arc. She gets nothing. Paulie, of course, doesn't get anything resembling an arc. I mean, these people are not doing anything. I mean, the only sort of an arc that happens is the story of Rocky and his son, where the son becomes alienated for some reason, and then suddenly that's sort of just magicked away. Yeah, you're right. I mean, and you're right when you say why, you know, he's punching the bag to try to inject some drama, because there is no drama in this film. There's nothing. And here's my problem with the Tommy Gunn story.
Only one?
Well, I mean, again, like I haven't even really talked. I mean, again, like I said in the beginning, I said, you know, problem A is this rush to get Rocky back to his roots. They do this convoluted, you know, mishmash of things going wrong to get him back on that stoop. But then you bring in the Tommy Gunn story. Now, that to me is weird because, again, this is what I mean about this was the wrong story to tell. Tommy Gunn shows up. He wants to get trained. He's this great boxing prodigy. Now, first of all, like you said, totally miscast. Like, I like the idea that Stallone wants to use actual boxers to try to make it a little more authentic. I've never been a fan of that. In fact, he's actually tried that more often than you'd think. I think in like 2 and 3, he was actually looking at like guys like Joe Frazier and real boxers to play parts. Mm-hmm. I think that's such a mistake. You need actors to be in these films. You can't have, especially a film like Rocky V, where the actual fighting is, I mean, first of all, it's so over the top and nonsensical. Every time he throws a punch, a guy does a backflip. But why do you need you don't need a real boxer for that. If you're going to make it this fantasy boxing, then you just get a guy who's built.
Yeah.
So yeah, Tommy Gunn, just so goofy looking, miscast, whatever. Anyway, he shows up. He wants Rocky to train him. Rocky's reluctant at first, and then suddenly he just out of nowhere, like a light bulb goes over Rocky's head. Okay, he's totally on board, and now he's really into this, just really into this idea. In fact, the scene where he actually says and he's like, Rocky, I'm just like you, man. I'm hungry. The weird expression on Stallone's face, where you see him kind of come around, and then suddenly he likes the idea, and then he says something so weird to him. He goes, "You're hungry?" and Tommy's kind of looking at him like, yeah. And he's like, and then he says something like he invites him over. Oh, Adrian cooks really good or whatever. So like it was like a funny. It was supposed to be a funny segue into Come Home for Dinner. Uh-huh. It was like just really weird the way Stallone kind of does that. But anyway. I'm kind of getting so sidetracked. But the point I'm trying to get to is the idea that, first of all, he starts off, he's living through Tommy. He's a good trainer. They got a good relationship. Everything is fine, right? Then the idea that the George Washington Duke, again, he's a Don King character. He comes in, seduces Tommy with money, and by the way, I love that he gives him Tommy Gunn is probably like what, his early 20s. He brings this like hooker, like a redheaded hooker for him who looks like she's in her 40s. Like it was almost like the director of this film says, we need like a trashy call girl, really. So of course they give her like this like kind of cliche, like big fur coat, lots of jewelry. And it's like, she looks like she's probably in her 40s. Like her hairdo looks like she's a 40 plus year old woman. So I always thought that was like weird, but.
It's funny. It's funny you should say that because the actress is named Delia Shepard, and she was born in 1960. So at the time the movie was out, she was actually like 29.
You're right. I probably should have prefaced that because I mean, it's not like she looks old, like an older woman. They just dress her up to make her look like it's almost like. Why you dress like an old lady if you're only in your 20s?
I don't know, man. There's not a lot of logic in this movie, dude.
No.
Wait, hold on a second. There's logic, but there's no connection to the logic. There's no real earning of that logic.
Right.
Okay. He should have. It should have been. I guess they wanted it to be an older woman because he said, "Well, I didn't really. I had a dad that used to beat me and stuff like that, and I guess trying to make it a mommy figure. I don't know. I don't know what they were going for with that.
I don't think they were going for anything other than the people who were directing this and doing. Put it this way: whoever was in charge of the hair in this film should be cast out and never hired again.
It was the early 90s, dude. It was the early 90s.
I don't care. I mean, look, but the 80s was the mullet. Okay, Tommy Gunn shouldn't have a mullet. Rocky Balboa under that stupid hat shouldn't have like a mullet. And I remember even watching the credits, like poor Adrian, poor Talia Shire, boy. When I was looking at the credits and it said something like the hair assistant to Talia Shire, I was like, boy, she should be fired.
Yeah.
Poor Adrian looked terrible in this film, and I'm like, and she's not that. Again, I understand that Stallone works out his whole job, his reason to be is to look good and to be in movies. Talia Shire, she's looking older than Rocky now, but I'm saying to myself, there was more you could have done. Like her stringy hair in the front looked just so awful. Like I felt like she looked older than she needed to be in this film.
Yo, Tommy! I didn't hear no bell.
Watch it.
One more round.
Don't get back. Come on. Get back. What? Tommy, you don't need this. Tommy, you lose, you're finished.
I got one more round. Come on. I'm not going to knock you out this time. I'm going to put you through the street. One more round.
Come on, Rocky.
Here's my problem with Tommy Gunn. The idea that they're going to pitch us this film, I get the point that Rocky now is a trainer and he's got a protege and he's sort of, doing the Mickey role. Okay. The idea now that the idea that he gets seduced and now gets so angry at Rocky, right? Like they're trying to pitch him against Rocky. Now, first of all, the idea that the media starts when they start showing the newspaper clips where it's like Rocky's robot, Rocky's puppet, why would people be after this guy for that? That to me made no sense. So later on, now he's angry, and he wins the belt, and the press is like, you're no Rocky Balboa. Like, why they got it in for this kid doesn't make any sense to me. I kind of felt like, at the end of the day, it's almost like, when we would say about, like Amazing Spider-Man 2, and I would say, like, the writers of these films got two jobs. Get the super villain to get powers, then give the super villain a reason to hate Spider-Man. Now we got a reason for them to fight. You know what I mean? I felt like that was sort of the motivation here. It's like, come up with Tommy Gunn, but now, at the end of this fight, we got to have Stallone fighting someone, so he's going to have to fight Tommy Gunn. So they run him through these stupid hoops. Again, this really convoluted way to get from A to B. Everyone hates him. They love Rocky still. Now he's mad. I'm going to beat up Rocky because I'm mad and stuff. And of course, and Duke is whispering in his ear, you got to fight Balboa. That's the only way you're going to such and such. So they go down to the bar to pick a street fight. And so that, again, I'm saying to myself, you can't get me involved in this film. You can't get me to follow. I don't know. The idea that Tommy Gunn goes from this kind of naive farm boy who just kind of doesn't seem to have just a regular kind of guy. I don't have any reason to like him or not like him. Everything's moving along. Then suddenly at the end, he does the twist and now he's the bad guy. And I'm supposed to really get excited. Like, I've heard that there was, like, cuts in this where, like, they have the fight and Stallone kind of reaches the hand out and they just kind of patch it up and says, they make up at the end. That, to me, sort of made more sense than the idea that he becomes, like, a full-blown villain, that Rocky beats him up in the end, and this is supposed to be satisfying. But it's not satisfying, because, again, the guy... there was no animosity throughout the whole film. I don't know. That to me was like I said, that to me was not the right story. They wanted to get Rocky back to his roots and give him something to do that ends up in a fight. This was really not the way to do it.
It was poorly done. There could have been signs that this guy was basically just a leech and his end goal was always to be like under, George Washington and everything like that. Like that was really what he wanted to do to make the big bucks. If they had given any type of indication about that and gotten to that point, then it would have been easier then for the whole, okay, so basically this was just who he always was. And the fact now that he's not getting respect, and being the champion and everything like that, he could almost see it. But he didn't earn any of that. There was nothing about his character that was likable, enjoyable, or anything like that. They tried to develop... I complained about Clubber Lang being one-dimensional, and I regret that now. And I complained about... I complained about Drago being one-dimensional.
And I said this then, but go ahead.
And you're right. I regret that now. This was almost worse because they tried to put some dimension in there, and it didn't work because you had a bad actor, and nothing about Tommy Gunn worked in this movie. They could have easily just made this movie without him, and they should have. It should have been a movie about the struggle to find himself again, okay? Or something. I don't know. Stallone in a 2010 interview said that this movie was like a cash grab. So
yeah,
it's obvious. It's obvious. He made some logical judgments with regard to story, but he didn't care about the story. Because if he had cared about the story, some of this might have worked.
Well, did he not care, or did he just lose his edge? I mean, it's kind of funny. I mean, one of the reasons why I love Rocky 3 so much is because the whole thing is about losing your edge and trying to find it again. I feel like this film is kind of about that. This is sort of like Rocky. This is Stallone having lost the edge. He's had it comfortable. He's had it easy. Like I said, by Rocky 4, he phoned it in. He can do this in his sleep now. He knows the buttons to push. Now he's trying to get back to actual writing a drama that's supposed to actually work on subtle levels. But wow, he just has no clue anymore. He has no clue how to do it anymore. So I don't know. I mean, there's some funny little things, I'll tell you. I mean, there's some funny little things in this film that do kind of appeal to the like little fan servicey things. The bartender, you barely even see him. If you blink, you miss him. But the original bartender's in the scene in the bar. His boy Mike from the first one is back working in the gym again. Remember Michael kicks him out of his locker in the first one? He's back. He's 15 years older now, so he looks like Sam Kinison. It's kind of funny, but yeah, he's in it. Oh, incidentally, by the way, Marie she hit the cutting room floor.
I heard about that, where she was a prostitute.
Mm-hmm. Basically, she was like a homeless hooker or whatever. Kind of just ended up exactly how Rocky said she was going to end up, and they actually got the original actress to show up, and it's a good thing they did cut it out, because the whole premise of Rocky 6 wouldn't have worked if that had happened. Yeah, I guess Stallone was always interested in getting her back in at some point, but
so I gave this movie a 3, and I feel like I'm being generous.
Yeah, I was debating between a 3 or a 4. I think, you know what? I think I'll join you in giving this a 3.
This is the swan song for Talia Shire and for Burt Ward, and not Burt Ward, excuse me. Burt Young.
No, he comes back.
He does? He wasn't in Rocky Balboa, was he?
Paulie?
Yeah.
You're gonna have to rewatch Rocky Balboa, my friend.
Okay, well,
he was very much in Rocky Balboa.
Well, my mistake then. I apologize. And it was the last Rocky movie that Burgess Meredith did. He died 7 years later in real life. But this was not a good way to send out some of these characters. All right?
No.
It certainly was not. And honestly, I was at the time that it had come out, I was very sad that this was the ignominious way that Rocky goes out.
Yeah, I'll hand that to you. In fact, it's funny. Like, again, when I'm rating movies, 5 is my cutoff. Like, anything above a 5, yes, it's worth your time to watch. Below a 5, no, it's not. Mm-hmm. When I start getting down to like the 2s and the 1s, that's when it's downright offensive. Like when something in there, you're gonna kill off Gwen Stacy just for some fan service and to move her out of this movie. No, we're not doing that. That like. It's gotta get borderline offensive for me to get too low. That's why I was like teetering around a 3, because I kind of feel like at the end of the day, this film is sort of just harmless. It's harmless. It doesn't bother me in the way like a lot of films will, but yes, everything about it really is a failure. I mean, it really does. It is kind of prequel level bad, where everything just seems to be not quite what it's not what you're trying to tell me it is. I mean, it was, not to mention the...
Dude.
I know.
Dude.
All right.
We gave our score. I mean, I understand. I do. This movie's an offense to the entire Rocky series in so many respects. We could literally do 3 shows deconstructing this movie and its failings.
Yeah.
And why it didn't work.
We could do a red letter media treatment and do an hour-long show just on everything that's wrong with it. You're right. Like you said, you're right. It's not only is it a bad premise to try to get us to this to all the way back to Rocky 1, but the story that they tell then is still the wrong story, because again, now you've got a guy who we liked at one point, now he's the villain just to make a fight at the end, and no, that doesn't work. This was not the right story. This was not the right road for Rocky to go down. You're right.
Well, Joe, who asked you?
Who asked me? The monologue by Mickey in this film, just awful.
You know, kid, I know how you feel about this fight that's coming up, because I was young once too, and I tell you something. Well, if you wasn't here, I probably wouldn't be alive today. The fact that you're here and doing as well as you're doing gives me, what do you call it, a motivation, to stay alive? Because I think that people die sometimes when they don't want to live no more.
Nature's smarter than people think.
And nature is smarter than people think. Little by little, we lose our friends, we lose everything. We keep losing and losing till we say, what the hell am I living around here for? I got no reason to go on. But with you, kid, boy, I got a reason to go on. And I'm going to stay alive. And I will watch you make good.
And I'll never leave you.
And I'll never leave you until that happens. Because when I leave you, you'll not only know how to fight, you'll be able to take care of yourself outside the ring, too. Is that okay?
It's okay.
Okay. Now I got a little gift for you. No, wait a minute now. Wait a minute.
Really, I don't need nothing.
Look at this. See that? This is the favorite thing that I have on this earth. And Rocky Marciano give me that. You know what it was? His cufflink. Huh? And now I'm giving it to you. And it's got to be like an angel on your shoulder, see? And if you ever get hurt and you feel that you're going down, this little angel is going to whisper in your ear. He's going to say, "Get up, you son of a bitch. Because Mickey loves you."
Oh, wow, is that? Oh, my God. The flashback with Mickey, that is the part when I'm watching this, that this film completely just jumped the shark. Like, when Mickey gives his monologue, I'm saying to myself, did you guys even watch the first one? Did you watch any of the movies like before this when you wrote this script? Did anybody here understand anything about that character? Did Mickey ever once? Mickey, I mean, seriously, this is the guy screaming at him in Rocky 2, "You're a bum! You're a bum! You're a no good bum!" And that's when that's right around when this monologue is supposed to take place, right before the second fight with Apollo, right? Did Mickey ever seem like the kind of guy who would say to anybody, "I'm gonna be like a little angel on your shoulder when you're down and out, think of Mickey as like a little angel on your shoulder"? I was like, oh my God, this is awful. This is awful. It was like Mickey just came out of a Tony Robbins seminar, and he's trying to give this heartfelt, emotional pep talk, and I'm like, oh my God, Mickey loves you, kid. Mickey's like an angel on your shoulder, and he's never gonna leave. And he says, not only am I gonna teach you how to fight, but I'm gonna teach you how to live your life outside the ring. And I'm like, oh, wow. I mean, that to me is like, I hold my stomach. I hold my stomach in pain. That scene is just so awful.
You know what the funny part is? You know what the funny part is? That is actually based on an interview that Mike Tyson gave about his former trainer, Customato.
You know what? I read that as well. I did. I read that too. And I tell you too, I can understand that. I mean, I remember Customato too, and Customato, when he was alive, he was the reason that Mike Tyson stayed out of trouble, and once he was gone, Mike Tyson was a lost cause. He was the guy who was like, he was the angel on Mike Tyson's shoulder for sure in real life.
Yeah.
And that's fine. But boy, you cannot retcon this character and tell me that that is remotely anything that he would have said. Again, if you want to do a flashback with Mickey, which I already think is trouble, because Rockies don't have flashbacks, or at least they don't write new scenes to be done as flashbacks, at least not at this point. And I don't think they've ever done it since. But if you want, again, this is where just the terrible writing is, that on the nose writing that is completely lacking in any subtlety. If you wanted to write a scene like that, then do a scene that is more reminiscent of Mickey, where it's like he's yelling at him, calling him, you stink, or whatever, and then kind of say something in between the lines where it's like, underneath all of the sarcasm and that like remember in Guardians of the Galaxy 2 does this better, where they talk about the hard exterior to hide the mushy inside, right?
Right.
Do something like that here, where Mickey's like hard on the outside, but somewhere in between the cracks, you tell he cares. You tell that he loves him. You can tell that all the things he's saying in this monologue should have been done as subtext, not as actual text. Like, the subtext of that should have been that underneath it all, he really does love Rocky, and he really does feel it. This is sort of giving him like a new lease on life, and he's never been more alive than he is right now. Not this on the nose, I'm a little angel on your shoulder. Come on. Oh, that was painful. And then the idea that gives him the necklace. The necklace part just irritated me. It was like, now it became like this kind of thing in the film where first he's going to give it to Tommy Gunn, and at the end he gives it to the son. And it was almost like I can see that you needed a device there. You needed a device to say you were investing, your attention in Tommy, but now you're investing it back into your son the way you should have all along in the first place.
Right.
I get that. But again, that was so on the nose that Mickey was he puts the necklace around his neck, for God's sakes, like it's an award. It was so and the idea that now he knows Rocky Marciano. Like, are you serious? Like in the first film, you saw a poster of Rocky Marciano, and he's like, oh yeah, Rocky Marciano. Oh yeah. If you knew him, you would have said it. Like, so now you're retconning, coming up with this weird thing just to give him this dumb necklace, just so he can hand it off, because you can't do this through the writing. So you have to do it visually some way. But yeah, that Mickey monologue, awful. That to me is just an affront to that character.
All right. Well, I had a couple of things. I had Sage Stallone at first because, 1990 was weird because you had him as, Rocky Jr. and you had Sofia Coppola playing, her part in Godfather 3, that a lot of people will argue was a killer for that movie. At first I was going to go to him, but he's not as terrible as Tommy Morrison, who was the next person I was going to put on my Who Asked You. Yeah. But then I said to myself, well, I can't necessarily blame him because a good director should be able to pull a performance out of a person if they really care about the material. Or they could have caught it during the casting process. So in the end, I'm going to put it all down to one thing. Mr. Stallone, your screenplay seriously needed work. It's the screenplay.
Totally.
100%. That should have been the big change. I praised you. I wished to go back in time to say I wrote the first Rocky. And this is what you bring me? Dude.
Yeah. Stallone really, he needed to hire somebody to work with him on the script or to just do some rewrites and work on the screenplay.
Yeah.
I think the plot, the story itself is fundamentally flawed, but had you at least given a good screenplay, some good dialogue between people, that could have at least given this some charm. You could have at least said, well, it doesn't make any sense, but it's charming. It's not even that.
Yeah. It's like I watched a movie called Rocky with all the right actors, but all acting like strangers.
Exactly.
All right.
Who's going first? For your consideration.
Oh, I'm going to go first because mine is extremely easy. I have nothing nice to say about this movie. There's not one shot. This movie is forgettable. It's disposable. There's nothing in this that stands out to me as, wow, that was really good. Nothing. I not a shot, not an actor. Okay, you know what? Richard Gant. That's it. That's as close as I can come to for your consideration. The guy who freaking played George Washington. That's it. That's all I got. And even that's a stretch. I don't even want to give it that.
Yeah, I don't blame you. All right, for my consideration, again, I kind of got nothing too. The only thing I will say about it is that if you are a completist, if you want to see the entire Rocky franchise, this one is necessary to get you to Rocky 6, to Rocky Balboa.
Is it?
Well, yeah, because, how do you explain? Because, again, Rocky's back living in the neighborhoods of Philadelphia in Rocky Balboa. How do you explain that? To go from 4 to 6, you'd be lost. I kind of feel like you'd be like, wait, how'd this all happen?
Can't we just tell the audience, look, Rocky goes from riches to rags, boom, now watch Rocky Balboa, because Rocky Balboa is, if Rocky 5 is the derailing of the train, Rocky Balboa is like the replacement train.
Yeah, it's an interesting leap to go from 5. Put it this way. Maybe the best thing about Rocky 5 is that it makes Rocky 6 look that much better. That's the best I could do for this movie.
All right, well, you know what? I've only watched Rocky Balboa once, so after the rewatch next week, I'll have more to say about the matter.
Alrighty.
All right, let's put this one in the grave where it belongs, and let's move on.
Let's put a nail in this coffin. All right, my friend. Rocky 5, ladies and gentlemen.
Well, folks, we suffer for our art. Y'all have a good night.
Thanks for listening to the Reviews Without Remorse podcast with Joe and Dave. Join us here every Thursday for a new episode. And be sure to check out the Reviews Without Remorse channel on YouTube and VidMe for spoiler-free reviews of new releases, as well as in-depth discussions of current and classic cinema. If you enjoy this podcast, please consider becoming a patron. You can find our page at patreon.com. As little as $1 a month goes a long way. All clips in this podcast are used for commentary and critique, and is considered fair use. No copyright infringement is intended.